Bears play ball. I'm Dexter the Big Bear. The Bears can get more premium picks for number 1 in this year's draft. Here's a look at the kind of compensation they could expect for Fields versus the 2023 number 1 overall pick. Fields had an incredible rushing season in 2022, but his passing stats inarguably left a lot to be desired. While part of that is clearly a surrounding cast that wasn't up to snuff last season, Fields does have work to do throwing the ball. However, it's difficult to evaluate a player whose leading receiver last year was his tight end, who finished with just 50 catches on the year. However, there are still some holes in Fields' game that he needs to fix at the NFL level. Most notably, he needs to improve his accuracy. While Fields' completion percentage was higher than it was in 2021, he still completed just 60.4% of his passes. That was the third lowest mark among 33 qualified quarterbacks and ranked ahead of only Baker Mayfield and Zach Wilson. Let's strengthen this channel together. If you can leave your like and subscribe to our channel. Here the content is 100% Chicago Bears. Additionally, Fields was turnover prone and threw 11 interceptions on the season, tied for the 10th most in the NFL. More troubling was that his interception percentage of 3.5 ranked second worst in the league behind only Dak Prescott, 3.8%. It's certainly possible for Fields to improve in these areas, but if he doesn't, his dominance over the starting quarterback certainly will. Or at least, he wouldn't live up to his potential. As such, the Bears could face a difficult decision in choosing to exercise his fifth-year option or sign him to a longer-term extension. Speaking of Fields' contract, that's arguably the biggest factor at play when discussing a potential trade. He is a cost-controlled asset for only 3 years when including the last 2 years of his rookie deal and his fifth-year option. At some point, the Bears will have to sign him to a new, lucrative contract extension that will be dictated by the ever-burgeoning quarterback market. Comparatively, drafting a new quarterback would give the Bears a cost-controlled asset for 5 years. That may not seem like a huge difference, but it would prop Chicago's window for contention open a bit longer. That could be of interest to Poles and Matt Eberflus as they work to overhaul what is currently a weak Bears roster. The presence of Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus. Trading Fields and taking an improving quarterback would be a risk, but it's one that Poles and Eberflus can afford to take if they so desire. Why? Because they are a new regime and they haven't yet invested in a quarterback of their own. Neither Eberflus nor Poles was around when former general manager Ryan Pace selected Fields. If the new brain trust strongly believes that someone like Young is an upgrade over Fields, they could pull the trigger and sell on Fields while he still carries a relatively high value on the trade market. So, yes, this would be a leap of faith of sorts for Poles and Eberflus, but it's not like they are currently on thin ice. This would be one of the first major decisions of their partnership and would likely define it. But it is an option available to the team. The 2023 NFL Draft Process. The 2023 NFL Draft won't begin until April 27th, so the Bears are going to have a few months to fall in love with a quarterback during the draft process. They will certainly do their due diligence on quarterbacks as long as they hold onto the number 1 pick, so that will leave open the possibility that one of the top passers could blow them away. And for those convinced by Poles' solid endorsement of Fields, it's important to remember that early off-season endorsements don't often mean a lot. In 2019, Cliff Kingsbury famously said that Josh Rosen was the Cardinals' guy at quarterback. A couple of months later, Arizona took Kyler Murray at number 1 overall. Chicago could do something similar if Young impresses them enough, even if that possibility remains unlikely. Why the Bears will likely keep Justin Fields? Though the Bears could trade Fields, it still seems likely that they will keep him. Why? Because he showed strides in 2022 and seemed to mesh well with offensive coordinator Luke Getsy as the season went along. Not many quarterbacks can boast the same type of game-breaking speed that Fields has. You could make a case that Lamar Jackson has it, but Fields is bigger and stronger than Jackson. He also has been more durable in a smaller sample size. The Bears probably won't be keen to give up on that kind of physical talent after just 2 years, especially when Fields has only gotten better over time. Yes, he needs to improve as a passer, but there's no guarantee any rookie replacement would fare better in that area. There is no Trevor Lawrence or Joe Burrow in the 2023 NFL Draft. Additionally, it's worth noting that the Bears didn't exactly surround Fields with a lot of talent during his second season. He played behind one of the league's worst offensive lines and lacked quality offensive weapons outside of Darnell Mooney, who missed 5 games with an ankle injury, and Cole Kmet. The Bears have nearly $100 million in cap space with which they can upgrade their team in addition to the number 1 overall pick. They should be excited to see what Fields can do when surrounded by much better talent as he enters the third and arguably most critical year of his development. There isn't a one-to-one comparison for the Bears trading Fields. Despite his potential being seen, Fields still isn't a sure thing and teams could be reluctant to trade the farm for a quarterback who is still developing. With that being said, there's tremendous upside to Fields, who was electric down the stretch last season. He is trending in the right direction and a better cast would undoubtedly work wonders for him. Most importantly, with his 5th-year option, a team that would trade for Fields gets up to 3 years of relatively cheap exclusivity. An imperfect comparison for a Justin Fields-like trade is that of Josh Rosen, who completed 55.2% of his passes for 11 touchdowns and 14 interceptions in 14 starts as a rookie in 2018 with the Cardinals before being traded to the Dolphins for a 2nd and 5th-round pick in the 2020 draft. Rosen, however, was traded after Kyler Murray was selected, limiting the Cardinals' leverage. With what Fields showed and the possibility of getting Young or Stroud, the cost to Fields would have to be higher. The Bears trading Fields would be almost unprecedented, so it's hard to design a package for him. A 1st and 2nd round, 2nd or 3rd round, pick would likely be too rich for most teams, particularly in this QB class. But if any team is completely smitten with Fields, there's a chance they'll decide to stretch and make a deal. Teams in the middle to the end of the 1st round are the most likely to make a play for Fields. That could include the Jets, number 13, Commanders, number 16, or even Giants, number 26, if negotiations with Daniel Jones falter. While it's not out of the question to see a team like the Raiders, Panthers, or Falcons play for the Fields, the price would have to be fair for their pick compensation and could include the Bears improving the pot in some way. It's a little easier to imagine what the Bears can achieve with the number 1 overall pick since there's a clearer precedent for it. With the number 1, teams are still getting guaranteed players. The difference is that it's the player they want. That would involve overtaking the Texans and, for a QB-starved team, hitting who they consider the best QB in the draft. Clearly, the best suitor in this case is the Colts, who would cut a rival by the knees while getting their quarterback pick. Also, Colts owner Jim Irsay is bragging about Alabama QB Bryce Young. His admiration for the QB, coupled with the fact that Young likely won't be available to them even with the number 4 pick, could tip the scales at IndyCar. The most recent number 1 pick trade occurred in 2016, when the Rams traded their 1st, 2nd and 3rd of the 2016 and their 1st and 3rd of 2017 drafts for the Titans' 1st overall, 4th and 6th round picks. The Rams got Jared Goff with that pick. The Rams, of course, were picking 8th in that draft. Each trading scenario for the overall number 1 will look different, but the assumption has to be who the Bears are going to trade with will also require a top 10 pick. Draft picks being the remarkably coveted commodities that they are, trading for the number 1 overall pick will be difficult. The Cardinals will likely take 3rd place. If it's up to them, they might want to trade back, with Kyler Murray already secured. But beyond that, there are several teams that could challenge Young or Stroud. That price might seem unreasonable, and it might be. But if one of the teams listed above, 3 of which have a new coach this year, finds sustained success under Young or Stroud, that will be the cost. Subscribe to our channel, Bears Fan. This year in the NFL is ours. Amid so many rumors, it's up to the Chicago Bears to make the right choices for the right positions. And tell me, Bears fan, would you trade Fields for another QB? I would particularly stay with the faithful. He was very important in the year 2022. Hugs from the Big Bear. Let's strengthen the Bears together. See you later.